Meet Maya and Marcus. Same age, same city, same job title at different companies. Both of them are carrying exactly $41,000 in debt right now. You put them side by side on paper, and you cannot tell them apart. Then, Maya gets a random Wednesday afternoon text from her bank. Her minimum payment went up again. She ignores it, tosses her phone face down, and goes back to her lunch. Marcus gets a similar text on the same Wednesday. He reads it twice, does some math in his notes app, and feels his chest tighten. That night, he can't sleep. He opens a spreadsheet at 1 a.m. that he's been quietly updating for 4 months. Same debt number, 2 completely different humans. And the reason isn't discipline. It isn't income. It isn't how long they've been carrying it. It's the type. Because not all debt is the same category of problem. Not even close. And the number one financial mistake I see people make over and over is panicking about the wrong kind and completely ignoring the one that's actually eating them alive.
My name's Sam, and I've spent an embarrassing amount of time studying how debt actually works versus how we're taught to feel about it, which are 2 completely different things. If you've ever stared at your total debt number and felt that specific kind of dread that sits somewhere between guilt and confusion, hit subscribe, because by the end of this video, you're going to understand your debt better than most people who have actively tried to pay it off. We're going to sort every dollar you owe into one of 3 levels, and I'm going to show you exactly which one deserves your panic, which one deserves your patience, and which one, if you play it right, is actually building your wealth while you sleep. Let's start with the framing that makes all of this click. We've been taught to treat debt like a single thing, a number, a total, a weight. $41,000 in debt. Bad. $0 in debt. Good. That's the mental model most people are running. And it's wrong in a way that costs people real money and real years of their life. Here's the model that actually works. Think of debt not as a number, but as a category. Because there are 3 categories of debt, and they behave completely differently. They have different effects on your net worth, different effects on your stress levels, different effects on your financial future. And they require completely different responses. Level 1, deadweight debt. Level 2, structural debt. Level 3, leverage debt. Maya has $38,000 in a mortgage and $3,000 in student loans. Marcus has $31,000 on 3 credit cards and $10,000 on a car he bought last year. Same total, completely different levels. Completely different futures. And once you understand why, you'll never look at a debt number the same way again.
Level 1, deadweight debt. This is the one worth panicking about. And I want to be very clear about what I mean by panic. I don't mean anxiety spiral at 1 a.m. panic. I mean the kind of focused, urgent attention you give something that is actively working against you every single hour of every single day that you don't deal with it. Deadweight debt is any debt that charges you a high interest rate on something that gives you nothing in return. The clearest example on earth is credit card debt. The average credit card in America right now charges somewhere between 21 and 24% annual interest. Let that breathe for a second. 21 to 24%. S&P 500, the index that tracks the biggest companies in America, the thing financial advisors point to when they say just invest for the long run, has returned roughly 10% per year on average over the last century. That's the benchmark. That's the gold standard of passive investing. Your credit card is charging you more than twice that. Every year, guaranteed. Which means if you are carrying credit card debt while also investing money anywhere at all, you are almost certainly losing the arbitrage. You're earning 7 or 8 or 10% on one side while paying 22% on the other. Math on that is not complicated. The math on that is a leak you cannot outrun.
Here's what it actually looks like with a number attached. Say you have $5,000 on a credit card at 22% interest, and you make only the minimum payment every month. Most cards set the minimum at around 2% of your balance. You will be paying that card for nearly 30 years. And by the time you're done, you will have paid somewhere around $8,000 in interest alone on a $5,000 balance. You borrowed $5,000 and paid $13,000 back. The credit card company made $8,000 off you for the privilege of lending you money you spent on things you no longer own. That is deadweight. It's nothing to your life going forward. It gives you no asset, no equity, no appreciation. It is pure cost, compounding silently in the wrong direction. Now,
here's what else lives in level 1. Buy now, pay later loans when they carry deferred interest. Personal loans used for consumption, vacations, weddings, furniture, not investment. Payday loans, which I shouldn't have to explain, but exist and ruin lives. Medical debt that's been sent to collections and is now accruing interest. Store cards. Retail financing at 0% that quietly jumps to 28% the day the promotional period ends. And most people miss the date because it was in paragraph 9 of a document they signed on a phone screen in a checkout line. All of it? Dead weight. Because here's the defining feature of level 1 debt. It has no asset on the other side of it.
There is no property appreciating. There is no degree on your wall. There is no vehicle getting you to work. There is nothing. There is just the debt and the interest rate and the clock running.
Let me give you the compounding problem in the starkest terms I can. If Marcus, our guy with $31,000 across 3 credit cards, makes minimum payments on all 3 and doesn't add another dollar of new debt, here's what happens. In 5 years, he will have paid roughly $15,000 in interest and still owe around $22,000. His $31,000 problem will have cost him $46,000 total and still not be resolved. In 10 years, if he continues on the same path, he will have paid more in interest than the original balance, and his balances will still exist. The credit card company has a business model that requires this math to work. They are not your lender. They are your landlord, and you are renting your own financial future back from them, one minimum payment at a time. This is the debt that deserves your urgency. Not guilt, not shame, urgency. There is a difference. Guilt makes you avoid looking at it. Urgency makes you deal with it before you do anything else. Level 2, structural debt. This is the one most people are panicking about. It's the one that doesn't actually deserve your panic. And confusing the two is one of the most expensive mistakes in personal finance. Structural debt is debt you took on to acquire something that serves a function in your life and that carries an interest rate low enough that it isn't destroying your financial trajectory.
The clearest examples: student loans, car loans, and personal loans used for something that generates income or replaces a higher cost of money. Now, I need to say this clearly because people are going to type things in the comments. Structural debt is not good debt. I'm not telling you to go take on more of it. What I'm telling you is that it is a fundamentally different category of problem than level 1 debt, and treating it with the same panic is the financial equivalent of going to the emergency room for a bruise because you're also dealing with a broken arm. The arm is what needs the ER. The bruise needs time. Here's why structural debt sits in a different category. First, the interest rates are lower. Federal student loans right now range from roughly 5 to 8%. A car loan from a bank or credit union on a decent credit score is somewhere in the 6 to 9% range. These numbers are real and they matter, but they are not 22%. They are not compounding at a rate designed to trap you permanently. Second, and this is the part nobody wants to hear about student loans specifically, there is an argument, a real mathematical argument, that a degree that raises your earning power over a 40-year career produces more in lifetime income than the interest on the loan costs. That math doesn't always work out, which is a different conversation, but the point is there's at least a case to be made. There is no case to be made for credit card debt on a vacation you took in 2021. Third, structural debt usually has fixed terms. A 5-year car loan ends in 5 years. An income-driven student loan repayment plan has structure and sometimes forgiveness provisions. Credit card debt has no finish line unless you create one. Let me give you the real-world illustration of why this distinction matters.
A lot of people right now are throwing every extra dollar at their student loans while carrying a credit card balance they're only paying the minimum on. They do this because student loans feel like the real debt. They're bigger, they have a name, they show up on your credit report and make you feel like you owe the government your entire 20s. But if your student loan rate is 5.5% and your credit card rate is 22%, you are shoveling money at a 5.5% problem while a 22% fire burns in the kitchen. This is not a metaphor. This is arithmetic. Every extra dollar you put toward the student loan instead of the credit card is costing you the difference, roughly 16 percentage points of interest on every dollar, every year. Now, here's what structural debt also does to your psychology that makes it feel worse than it is. The balances are usually larger. A $40,000 student loan debt looks scarier than a $5,000 credit card balance, even though the credit card is the one that will wreck you.
The human brain is not good at this comparison. We respond to the size of the number, not the rate of the problem. There's actually research on this. A study from the National Bureau of Economic Research found that borrowers systematically misallocate their debt payments, putting extra money towards smaller balances or lower rate debts because of how the numbers feel rather than how the math actually works. You are not bad with money. You are responding like a human to how debt is presented. That's exactly why you needed this video. The strategy for level 2 is calm, systematic, automated repayment. You set it up, you don't look at it every day, you don't lose sleep over it. You point your urgency at level 1, and you let level 2 run its scheduled course. One of those problems is a fire. The other is a slow renovation. Stop confusing them. Level 3, leverage debt. This is the one almost nobody talks about when they talk about debt because it requires accepting an idea that feels uncomfortable at first. Some debt builds wealth. Not in a motivational poster way, in a literal, mathematical, here's how the numbers work way.
Level 3 is leverage debt. Debt you take on to acquire an asset that appreciates in value, generates income, or both, at a rate that exceeds the cost of borrowing. The textbook example is a mortgage. The median home price in America right now is around $420,000. Say you put 20% down and borrow $336,000 at a 6.5% fixed rate. Your interest cost on that loan is real, and it is significant. Over the life of a 30-year mortgage, you will pay a lot of money in interest. I'm not pretending otherwise, but here's what else happens. The average annual appreciation of American home values over the last 60 years is roughly 4%. That sounds modest until you remember that you didn't put up $420,000. You put up $84,000, and the bank put up the rest. So when the home appreciates, even at a modest 4%, you're earning that appreciation on the full $420,000 value. That's $16,800 in the first year on an $84,000 investment. That's a 20% return on your actual out-of-pocket dollars. This is leverage. It's not magic. It's just math. And it's why Maya, carrying $38,000 in mortgage debt, is in a fundamentally different situation than Marcus with $31,000 in credit card debt. Her debt is attached to an asset that is likely growing in value. His debt is attached to nothing that still exists in the same form.
The car he bought for $10,000 is already worth less than he owes on it. That's not leverage. That's just level 2 structural debt on a depreciating asset. Other examples of level 3 debt: a small business loan that funds equipment or operations that generate revenue exceeding the cost of the loan. A real estate investment property financed at 7% that rents out at a yield of 10%. Even in the right circumstances, a margin loan used carefully by someone who genuinely understands what they're doing. Though that last one has taken down more people than it has helped, so I'm including it only for completeness. Here's the critical line between level 2 and level 3. Level 2 debt is attached to something functional that doesn't appreciate. Level 3 debt is attached to something that can reasonably be expected to appreciate or generate returns that exceed the cost. A car gets you to work. It doesn't grow in value. Structural debt. A house you live in may grow in value and eliminates rent as a cost. Leverage debt. The simplest version of the level 3 filter: will the thing I'm borrowing to buy be worth more than I paid for it? Or will it generate more income than the loan costs me? If yes, you're in level 3 territory. If no, you're in level 2 at best. Now, here's the important caveat I have to give you before someone builds an entire bad financial life around this section. Leverage amplifies in both directions. The same math that made the mortgage example work, earning appreciation on the full value while only putting up a fraction, also means that if home values fall 20%, you can lose more than your entire down payment. This happened to a lot of people in 2008. The debt didn't care that the asset went down. The bank still wanted its payment. The leverage didn't protect them.
Level 3 debt is wealth building when it works, and wealth destroying when it doesn't. The difference is almost always in the quality of the underlying asset and the cost of the loan. Borrow cheap, buy something durable. Give it time. Borrow expensive on something speculative, and you've just moved the problem to a different level. Let me show you what these 3 levels look like when they play out over real timelines with real people making real decisions. Case study 1, the minimum payment trap. Sarah is 29. She has $8,400 spread across 2 credit cards from her mid-20s. a period when the money wasn't working and the cards filled the gap. She also has $22,000 in student loans at 5.8%. Every month, she splits her extra $400 between both debts. She sends $200 to the student loans and $200 extra to the credit cards on top of the minimum payments. It feels balanced. It feels responsible. It is not the optimal move. If Sarah redirected all $400 of her extra payment exclusively to the credit cards, she pays them off in 19 months instead of 34 months. She saves over $2,100 in credit card interest. Then she points all of that money, including the freed up minimum payments, at the student loans. Total debt cleared 3 years faster. Total interest saved over $2,800, not from earning more, not from cutting her lifestyle, from knowing which level to attack first. Case study 2, the car upgrade that changed the math.
Devin is 34. He was making real financial progress. $6,000 in a Roth IRA, $4,000 in a high-yield savings account, and a manageable student loan on income-based repayment. Then his car needed a $1,400 repair. And instead of paying for the repair, he traded it in and financed a $28,000 car at 9.4%. His payment is $580 a month. That $580 a month isn't just a car payment. It's $580 a month that could be going into his Roth IRA or his savings. Over the 5-year loan, it costs him $34,920 in payments on a car that will be worth maybe $12,000 when it's paid off. That's $22,920 in depreciation and interest, the actual cost of the upgrade. Not $28,000, not $580 a month, $22,920 on a car. Devin didn't make a stupid decision. He made an uninformed one. The car is structural debt, level 2, which is survivable. But the opportunity cost of $580 a month for 5 years, money that isn't growing, isn't compounding, isn't building anything, is real. And most people never run that number before they sign. Case study 3, when level 3 works the way it's supposed to. Camille is 38. She bought a house 8 years ago for $310,000 with a 30-year mortgage at 3.75%. At the time, her family thought she was overextending. That's a lot of debt, they said. Today, that house is worth approximately $490,000 in her market. Her remaining loan balance is around $248,000. Her equity is $242,000. She turned a $62,000 down payment into $242,000 in equity over 8 years, while living in the house, while paying less per month than her neighbors pay in rent. That's level 3 debt doing exactly what it's supposed to do. And here's the thing nobody talks about. Camille still has debt. She owes $248,000. On a pure debt versus no debt scorecard, she looks like someone who hasn't paid off her mortgage. But on a net worth scorecard, she is $242,000 ahead of where she started. The debt didn't make her poorer. The debt made her richer. That's leverage. That's the difference between the level you're in and the label you put on it. Okay, enough concepts. Here's what you actually do with all of this. First, triage your debt stack right now. Get every debt you have on one list. The balance, the interest rate, and the type. Categorize each one. Level 1, anything above 10% with no asset attached. Level 2, car loans, student loans, personal loans with fixed terms. Level 3, mortgage, investment property loans, anything tied to an appreciating asset. If you have level 1 debt on that list is your emergency. Everything else is maintenance. Second, stop paying level 2 and level 3 ahead of schedule if you still have level 1 debt. I know that feels wrong. The student loan feels like the real debt. It has your name on it, and it's from the government, and it follows you around. But mathematically, every extra dollar going toward a 5.8% loan while a 22% balance exists elsewhere is a dollar pointed in the wrong direction. Clear the fire first. Renovate the house later. Third, use the avalanche, not the snowball, on your level 1 debt. The debt avalanche method means you list all your level 1 debts by interest rate, highest to lowest. You make minimum payments on all of them. Every single extra dollar goes to the highest rate first. When that one's gone, everything rolls to the next one. This is mathematically optimal. The debt snowball, paying smallest balance first, feels better, but costs more money. Both are better than minimum payments on everything. But if you want the fastest path out of level 1, the avalanche gets you there cheapest. Fourth, Automate your level 2 payments and stop thinking about them daily. Set them to autopay. Know the payoff date. Put it on a calendar. And then do not spend emotional energy on them that belongs on level 1. The student loan is not going to ambush you. The credit card is. Fifth, before you take on any new debt, identify the level first. Not the monthly payment, not the total balance, the level. Is this attached to something that appreciates? Is the rate low enough that I'm not being destroyed by interest? Or is this dead weight? The monthly payment question is how car salespeople and furniture stores get you to say yes to things that cost you fortunes. It's only $199 a month is not a financial analysis. It's a sales technique. The level question is the actual analysis. Here's the reframe I want to leave you with. Most people watching this video feel like they have a debt problem. You don't. Not exactly. What most people actually have is a classification problem. They're treating $41,000 in credit card debt the same as $41,000 in mortgage debt. They're panicking about a student loan they've been paying on for 3 years and ignoring a store card charging 29% that they haven't thought about since March. The debt isn't the variable. The level is the variable. Maya isn't sleeping fine because she has less debt. She has more mortgage debt than Marcus has credit card debt. She's sleeping fine because the category of her debt is working for her instead of against her. And Marcus isn't struggling because he borrowed money. Everybody borrows money. He's struggling because the category of his debt has no ceiling and no finish line and compounds in the wrong direction every single day he doesn't prioritize it. The financial system doesn't explain this to you because the system makes money on your confusion. Your bank profits when you keep a balance. The car dealership profits when you focus on the monthly payment. The credit card company profits when you make the minimum and feel vaguely responsible about it.
You now have the framework they were counting on you never having. You don't need to be debt-free to be financially healthy. You need to be level 1 free. That's the actual goal, not zero debt. Level 1 0. And if you're sitting here right now realizing you have more level 1 than you thought, I want you to hear this clearly. That is not a moral failing. That is an information problem you just fixed. Most people watching this will nod at every word and not change their minimum payment allocation by Tuesday. That's not you. You know the levels now. Run the triage. Point your urgency at level 1. Let everything else run its course. And if you want to see exactly how to build the emergency fund that keeps you from ever sliding back into level 1 again, the one that means a $1,400 car repair never touches your credit card, comment below. I'll see you in it.